display that just says like starting soon.
Okay.
Man. That'll throw everybody off, yeah.
Might as well.
Okay.
All right, let's do
Let's-
this thing. Already got 4 people watching. Look at that.
I think people get notifications. It should switch soon.
Man, Facebook keeps on changing stuff every day, and I don't know how to feel about it.
That'll throw everybody off, yeah.
Might as well.
All right. Well, who's doing the intro today?
Yeah, I did it last time.
You did it last time.
Yeah.
I'm doing it this time. All right.
All right, let's do it.
What's up, everyone at home? Today, we're getting back. It feels like it's been more than 2 weeks. We're back on the Supplement Industry Roundtable with today Ben. I feel like I have to call you MORPHOGEN Ben because that's what everyone calls you.
Right.
What everybody else calls me.
Yeah. Ben Hartman from MORPHOGEN. I think Ben is kind of a very unique individual because all the things that Justin and I tell companies not to do with their formulas, Ben does, and he rocks it.
It's not just the formulas; it's a lot of decisions. But
Well, yeah, I mean, for customer-facing things, it is all the things that Justin and I say don't do, and you seem to be
Yeah.
rocking it.
Yeah, I'll have people that are like, yeah, I saw what Morphogen was doing. I was like, okay, just don't do that. Like, let him do that. Let him be that guy that's doing that.
Well, welcome to the show, Ben. I'm super excited.
thanks
'cause
for
Ben-
having me.
Yeah, Ben has kind of the same humor that we do, so I think this should be a fun-filled 2 hours. What's the first topic of the night, Justin? I think if I did the intro, you got to pick where we go with this.
Yeah, it's like, it's hard for me, Ray, because I mean, I've known Ben. I mean, we've known each other for a long time now. I remember the first time, like when we were first sort of going through formulas and putting the app together, and I remember someone was like, "Hey, have you ever seen this product that's called Volugen? It's from Morphogen Nutrition?" And I was like, "No," I was like, "Never heard of it." I was like, "Send me over the label," and he sends me the label, and I was like, "What in the fuck is this?" I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And I was like, "And where has this been?" Like, I was like, "You can do stuff like this?" And that kind of like opened my eyes to, I would say, like a different sort of part of the industry. Like up until then, I think, NutriBio and stuff like that there's some products they make are a little similar, maybe like the amino products, but I was like, I saw Volugen, I was like, what is this? And I'm like, I got to reach out to this guy and see like what kind of psychopath he is. And he lived up to the billing the whole entire time. Like, he's that type of guy.
It's been a magical 2 years or so.
Right, but so speaking of that, like one thing that I think people would always find interesting is, yes, it's like in this circle we've been talking about you a lot, over the last, like especially over the last like year, a lot of momentum has built up for Morphogen, but it's been a long process, right? Like Morphogen's been around for a very long time. If we could just maybe touch on that a little bit. I know you've touched on it a lot on other podcasts and things like that. It's cool to sort of go back and sort of, because people get this false impression, and we talk about this all the time about people think it's this overnight success thing, and they see how, you're getting all this recognition now, and they don't realize, man, the shit that you've been through to get to this point.
Been a lot of years. Yeah, so we officially formed the Articles of Incorporation summer of 2011. I don't know the exact date. It was June something. We had the first run of the first product in one flavor show up at the end of September of that year. So we've effectively been selling product for almost exactly 9 years. I mean, pretty damn close to the day. Man, what a fucking weird 9 years it's been. The whole premise behind what we were doing was never to really monetize anything or turn it into anything legitimate or big. I had two primary motivations in starting the company. One was I was pretty tired of all the shitty proprietary blended bullshit that was out there. I was sponsored by a pretty large company at the time. They had a lot of regular products, and then they came out with this one that I'm pretty sure is still their best-selling product, and it was just fucking terrible. And I was just so fed up with the bullshit. And combination of that and realizing that I was stuck at my old job and I was never going to make any more money. And my wife and I, we talked about eventually starting a family, and how are we going to pay for childcare, and how are we going to do all this? We have no money, and all my salary is going to go to childcare. I'd rather just work from home and just make less money. And I'm like, cool, if I can make a little bit of money and she can be, my sugar mama, then life will be grand. So, so we essentially started that process. I ran the company extremely part-time on top of all the other stuff I was doing for 2 years. And then we relocated, and I started doing it full-time, and we lived off of her up until literally a month ago.
Damn.
Now all that's switched. So yeah. And over these 9 years, very non-traditional path, not just formulation, but the way we've approached distribution and marketing and all these things. And we, everything we've done is not for the sake of being different. It's for the sake of doing something that aligned with the way that I think about things. And the way that I think about things, not just in this industry, but in general, tends to be a little bit taboo at times, tends to be a little bit different than the norm. But if it registered to me and it made logical sense, then somebody out there is going to align with those thoughts, and they're going to buy into that, the idea. And then they're going to tell a bunch of people, and one of those people will buy in. And I always said that if we create something that is both undeniably great on paper, but then the actual efficacy of the product is unbeatable at the same time, then you don't have to market or sell or be a salesman or be a businessman or all these things. A great product will eventually sell itself because people talk and people like to share stuff. That was kind of always the idea from day one. And we have literally more than doubled every single year over the previous year for 9 years in a row.
Yeah, so it's one thing. I think that we talk about this all the time, especially this day and age. You don't necessarily, a lot of the supplement industry is playing the game, so to speak. And playing the game is great for the people in the business aspect end of it, but it really ultimately who loses out on that is the consumer at the end. And one thing that I like about you and why we sort of like bonded like right away was because you're like, look, man, I'm not gonna run around. This is just what I do. Like you have like people like nitpick like other brands and this and that. You're like, I don't give a fuck about anybody else's brand except for my own. This is how I'm doing it. If you want to sort of critique it, I don't really care. Like, but this is how I'm going to do it. So you built this company slowly and steadily, but I would say explosive growth. At certain times, especially recently, your own way. And I think that that's something that everybody this day and age can sort of look at and take inspiration from. That you can do things the way you want to do them and be successful. It just might, maybe it takes a little bit more.
It takes 9 years to become an overnight success. Yeah.
Right. So that's one thing I think just, you and I, like I said, we bonded right away. And I think that that's what sort of ties into like what we're trying to do. It's like, hey man, it's not for everybody, but like there's enough people out there these days. You can connect with so many people anymore. It's like just a cool thing that you can stick to your guns and make it and be successful, which is really cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like, everybody wants to get into this space and everybody wants a piece of the pie. And yes, the amount of people, vying for those pieces is increasing, but the pie is getting exponentially bigger. And, the way that I've done pretty much everything in my entire life, and not just this business, has always been a little bit untraditional, like I said. And it doesn't mean that it's going to work for a majority of people, but it's always worked for me and it made sense to me. And because it's so unique in the way that we've approached everything, I've always kind of considered us to not have any direct competition. And that's not a dig on the other companies that are out there. There are certainly some incredible brands and owners and people changing the industry, and there's some badass shit that's out there. What I mean is that if you create something that is so unique that nothing is ultimately comparable, then the people that buy into that are never going to leave. And the people that don't buy into that are not your customer anyway. So you don't need to pander to their bullshit and dilute your brand and change the way you do things. They're going to go over here no matter what. So who cares? Fuck them. They can go over there. But the people that think in this very, narrow range of how we do things, they're never going to go away. Mm-hmm. And I do think over the last several years, largely social media driven, but the amount of information, the educated consumer, the people that are tired of getting fucked over, the people that are being tired of being lied to or taking, shady supplements or underdosed bullshit or, pseudo legal bullshit. The number of people that are tired of this shit is growing, and it creates a much more viable space for people that have a genuine reason for being in this space to begin with. I mean, let's be honest. None of us got into this to become multimillionaires. None of us did.
Right.
We got into this because we believed in what we were doing within the space. And there's a whole part of the industry that is doing it the normal way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. It doesn't affect me at all.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah. And thankfully, this lane that I've been in, there's a lot more like-minded people, guys like you guys, whether it's brand owners or content creators or information or all the kind of stuff. And there's so much more of it that it seems like MORPHOGEN has exploded. Where I think it's just the people that think similar to how I think are, now have these better platforms, they have more reach, and it's access is all that it is, which is great. It's fucking great.
Mm-hmm. It sounds a lot like Jacob talking about his store.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was like,
well, that's why the whole time I had nothing else to say other than, yep, I agree. Because when you create an entity that you feel is in its own lane entirely, you don't have to worry about what other people are doing anyway, because it's nothing but blinders. It's your path. So I totally agree with that, and I respect that.
Yeah, one thing that Jacob has said on several of these podcasts before is how there's and what clicked with me is there's supplement retailer Facebook groups and stuff like that. And I remember Jacob saying he went in one day later, he's like, fuck this, I'm out of here. This is ridiculous. That was the same thought process I had. I was like, that would be Ben Hartman going into a supplement, a brand owner, group page. Ben would go in and be like, you know what, fuck this.
I mean, and there are certainly some brand owners that I vibe with really well, and that I respect the hell out of what they do. And thankfully more of them are showing up and kind of doing their thing. But fuck, I mean, 5 years ago, I wanted nothing to do with any of it. It was not, as corny as it is, none of it matched up with the purity of why I wanted to get into the space to begin with, which was to make something that was a reflection of my own, kind of my artistic outlet that I've always had my entire life, this creative brain that I've always had, and something that I believed in, something that I wanted to use, something that I wanted to give to my parents and my wife and my friends. And if it ever became anything big, then great. And if it didn't, then who fucking cares, because I'm doing something great in its own right,
Yep.
How often do you get other brand owners coming to you and say, I wish I could do what you do?
I don't know if they directly say that.
Okay.
I've had a couple pretty well-known ones that said that they always envisioned doing what I did and then took it in a different direction and kind of got lost in that direction. And they still found success, don't get me wrong, but for better or for worse, because I've been so stubborn at staying in my lane 100%, no matter what, that means I never took a wrong turn. And that means I never ended up on a path that I never unintended to be on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I think as you get a little bit larger, you'll probably have even more coming out of the woodworks. Because that always seems to be the thing I hear from brand owners. I really wish I could do what MORPHOGEN's doing, what Neutro's doing. I think there's different levels.
All they have to do is not pay themselves for almost a decade, and then all of a sudden it lines up, right? How many other business owners are willing to do that?
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that you said, and I don't know, I have 1,000 questions. So anytime somebody else wants to jump in, feel free, or else I'll just talk all night. But one thing that you and I have talked about that I think people will find really cool is just what you touched on right there. We talked about Morphe Prime, for instance, is one of your really amazing products out there. And like you said, you're you could tell the story behind making that product. I'll let you tell it.
I mean, we've talked about it. I made it for my dad.
Right.
I never thought that it would become anything. I literally thought that it was going to be a bomb, that it would bomb, it would tank. Mm-hmm. I didn't think that it would sell at all. This was before, 6 cap, 12 cap, organ health things. None of that existed. I'm pretty sure at the time, the only mainstream sort of health organ type products were, the little tubs with a little teeny scoop, and it's got 100 milligrams of red rice, yeast extract and hawthorn berry and blah, 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 right? And there was nothing like what I wanted to do. And my dad was taking a number of things, and I wanted him to take a bunch more. We have an extensive family history on both sides of the family of heart disease, really shitty lipid panels on blood work. My dad lost his dad when I was 2, and I never got to know my grandpa to heart disease. And now my dad is older than his dad was when he died. And so it's been this whole family thing where it's like, what can I contribute to this? And there was no way he was buying 8 different products and taking a couple pills of this and on different, whatever. He just wasn't going to do it. And every product that I've created has kind of come out of this frustration where it's like, why doesn't anybody just make something that has everything you need in one fucking scoop or in one serving, right? Like, why don't they? Oh, I know why, because it's expensive and they have margins to meet and they have distribution and, the game, the way that the whole game works. So I threw Prime together and it became a huge hit.
Well, I think that there's one thing too that, like, even like taking that conversation even further is, we hear, and I know Ben does, Jacob does, like, you hear people say that a lot. They say they have this passion, this real, like, deep-rooted reason to do what they're doing, but they don't give themselves a realistic runway to sort of get that product out to people and stick through the times. Because, like, it's cool, like, it's awesome for people to hear that, like what you're saying right now. But if you were going to, like, create, before MORPHOGEN, before anybody knew who it was, if you ran around telling people, I'm making this for my dad, people don't really care. Like, they're not going to care about your story. But now that you're more well known, it's like people are like, well, that's really cool. But it's like, so you have to be able, like, that's not a selling point, is that, some nobody company is making a product for their dad. Like, people just don't give a shit about that stuff, unfortunately. Yeah. So it's like, we hear that story a lot, but people aren't, like, dedicated to the process and willing to stick through it the way you have. Like you said, waiting years and years before you're taking a payment or things like that. So that's, like, always a lesson that when I talk to people and hear from other people, I was like, it's cool to look at MORPHOGEN and say that's what I want to do. I was like, but you got to be willing to, and you've got to be willing to go through it. Like, I mean, you've gone through a lot of stuff with this whole
don't get me wrong, I'm very, very fortunate. Not everybody can do what I do, because my wife had a good job. When we relocated, she got a better job. We weren't balling, but we were mildly comfortable. We lived well below our means. Up until we moved into this house less than a year ago, we lived in a very modest 2-bedroom townhouse with our 2 kids, and all of our shit just everywhere because we had no space. I mean, there was always this, like, grander plan with everything that we did, where we're always looking ahead to, if we do this right now, in 2 years, we're going to be in this spot to do this. And she and I have both been very good at kind of projecting that sort of thing, or, seeing sort of that vision. I'm definitely more of the vision and the push, and she's way, way more of the organization and the pullback when I need it. We always say that she's the anchor to my rocket ship. And without her, I'd be gone. I mean, I wouldn't get anything accomplished. I would be ideas out the ass, and nothing would, I would overdo everything. And without me, she'd be a dud. She'd be a workaholic. She'd still be an accountant at a major bank and not doing anything. So it's a good balance that we've had. And I certainly don't take anything away from the opportunity that I was given by her to chase that. I mean, who gets to go to their spouse and say, hey, I want to take all of our savings and start this fucking business. By the way, I don't know how to run a business. I don't know how we're going to sell it. And then eventually I want to quit my job. It's insanity, right? But she knew that I was meant to do something much grander than what I was doing, all still related in the industry, but she knew that everything I was doing was building to something. I was always very good at all of the steps that I was a part of, but they were never the end goal. They just never felt like the end goal, and she knew there was something else.
So if we could talk a little bit, because it seems to me like it must have been a hard, like, initial push, but I do know that you had a decent community online and forums, correct?
Man, that goes way back. Yeah.
Because I'm curious, like you still have a pretty good following on social media now. I think you actually have probably one of the most loyal followings out of the companies that I know. But talk us through 9 years ago, like pre-Instagram, pre-Facebook ads, pre-Google ads. What did you have to do to get a product this expensive and this different noteworthy?
Yeah. So I've always kind of joked with people that, how there's jack of all trades, master of none. I am the exact opposite of that. I am very, very good and focused at like one thing. Everything else I cannot do. Literally, I am inept. I do not know how we built this house. I don't know where our bills go. I have no idea. I literally am not an adult. My wife takes care of everything. But I've been able to channel that focus so heavily into things. And so, I mean, we're talking way, way more than, I mean, probably 15. How old am I now? I mean, shit, we're probably talking 17, 18 years ago. The message boards were huge. And it was all about content and dialogue and discourse back and forth. And I was always very good at that, even at a relatively young age. I was a pretty good natural competitor right out of the gate. That gave me some credibility. I was very good at everything I've ever done professionally and academically has always been around education and teaching. So always been relatively good about explaining a concept to people. And especially when I was younger, I was a little arrogant. I was a little confrontational at times. That was a perfect fit for the message boards. And I just kind of built up this reputation, and I was given some, higher credit, on a couple of the message boards, especially on one specific one. Ken Hill, Skip Hill, who runs intensemuscle.com, well-known prep coach. He had that. It was booming at the time. He brought me and John Meadows and Justin Harris and Shelby Starnes and a bunch of these people on as like this roundtable. We were the roundtable experts. And so anytime that there was a discussion topic about something, there were certain topics that he would only let the roundtable people give the information. Everybody else had to learn and read. And I was very fortunate to be put into that group. I think I was probably 20 or 21, maybe. Probably 21. So through that, I ended up getting a sponsorship with a pretty large, global phenomenon, brand. I did the whole trade show thing with them, worked the Arnold. I wrote for their website. I helped them formulate a couple things, did some photo shoots, did all that. I did that with them for 5 years. And like I said, I just kind of got fed up with what I was doing, promoting a few things that I wasn't comfortable promoting, and I bailed. So I always kind of had a foot in the door with everything. It's like I had these contacts. And actually our first manufacturer at the time was Dante Trudell of Dog Crap and True Nutrition. His sister company is Primark, and they're a manufacturing company, and they were our first manufacturer. And I found them through Intense Muscle, and that's how we even started it. And then because of the reputation that I had built up and the education that I was, relatively good at discussing with people, one of the guys that I met on those message boards was starting an in-house brand for his family's pretty extensive store chain out on the West Coast. And I basically formulated his entire line for him, and then he gave me all of his contacts. So I had all of these manufacturing contacts, and it's like, how do you get those? Well, nowadays, there's sponsored ads for shit on Facebook. Back in the day, people go, oh, how do you get your shit made? Where do I get it made? I'm not telling you because I earned the right to have that information. Why would I just fucking tell you that? And so I mean, everything kind of led, one thing led to another, and I basically just said, I have these contacts, I have this information, I'm going to pull the trigger with no idea how we were going to move product. We had a very rudimentary Yahoo built website. The first few units, I literally walked into our gym, and I had a pretty good reputation there, and I literally just gave some scoops to a couple of my buddies at the gym, and they were fucking blown away. And they're like, immediately, I'll buy one immediately. And then they're telling their buddies, you got to try it. And they're giving scoops to everybody. And then before you knew it, everybody's giving half their tub away to everybody else. And the first run of product was, minimal. It was like 100 units or something. You can't even do that now, but at the time that was a thing. And we're like, if we can sell half of this and make our investment back and break even, at least we have another like 5 years worth of our own pre-workout to use ourselves. And then, we're at zero. And we sold that shit out in like 3 weeks, and then we were out. Well, fuck, we need to buy more. So we bought some more, and then we just kind of did the same thing. And then people started slowly talking on Facebook, and then it just, one person tells 100, and out of those 100, one of them believes them, and they try it, and then they love it. They tell another 100 people, and slowly one more and one more and one more. It just exploded.
So really, like, Morphogen didn't start 9 years ago. Morphogen started 15, 18 years ago.
Probably, yeah.
You're building that reputation up. I think that's one thing. Yes, you can expedite the process these days much quicker, but I think that that's another thing that we can all vouch for too, is it's a small community of people in this industry. And when you kind of come in, like nobody gives a fuck who you are. And it's like, you have to sort of prove that you can do it. So you were talking about, being on message boards and, building your contact list. Then you had, like, a lot of people start the brand first and then they try to go make the contacts and stuff like that. And then you're like sitting on this inventory and nobody gives a shit that you make a cool pre-workout. And it's like,
Yeah.
It's really hard to start a brand these days without some kind of presence first. You know what I mean? I don't want to say impossible, but it's like damn near impossible. So for all people that seeing that too, like cool formulas, but you had the reputation and contacts even beforehand, which back then even more important because you didn't have as much access to people.
Yeah,
so
you couldn't get anything back then.
There's another important lesson to would-be supplement company owners out there.
Man, I can't even.
I mean, and the thing is, anybody can, have some capital set aside or have an investment or, be gifted something or, whatever. They can have $1 million or $500,000 and buy a shitload of product in a small little warehouse and a 4-person crew and flood the market and sponsored ads and do all this shit and shelf space. And it means absolutely jack shit if nobody gives a shit, if you don't mean anything. I mean, if you have that sort of forced push into the market, you could latch on and make it big. Absolutely. I mean, there are a ton of brands that do it, but there's a very real risk of completely fizzling out and then you have nothing, especially when you invest so heavily into that. Now you have overhead and you have, things that have to be paid. I mean, we didn't have like any overhead for years. So whenever we did run out of product because we fucked up or whatever happened, or, there was no like pressure. I mean, there were a couple of times that we literally didn't have any product to sell for like 3 or 4 months because we fucked some stuff up and stupid mistakes, but we didn't go out of business because we had no bills. Like we could still pay our $30 web fee. We're good. We'll have product in 4 months and we'll just start the process over again. So not the ideal way to do it, but
One thing I love is like I see brand new brand owners. They've never owned a brand ever before. They have no distribution at all, no way to sell product, and they have 3PL for their product. Like they're spending money each month for someone else to ship 2 products for them. I'm assuming you were shipping out of your 2-bedroom townhouse.
Literally up until 2 months after our 7-year anniversary, I boxed up every single order myself.
Yeah.
Over 7 years.
So is that something, speaking of that, you have, I don't know how much you can talk about or want to talk about it, but I know.
Yes, and I can tell you, fuck you. I mean,
yeah.
Here we go.
But yeah,
have like some expansion sort of plans, sort of coming up. Like now is sort of a time because, well, like another topic that you were talking about earlier, instead of you were talking about sort of living below your means and things like that, because instead of just sort of paying yourself and stuff like that, you just kept making more fucking products, more overly expensive products, and you're like, well, I want to make this, I want to make this, I want to make this, and it's like
every time I had a buck, I spent a buck. I mean, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
But now you have some expansion plans that maybe like having like some offices and things like that, which is really cool.
Yeah, so we just purchased not a gigantic, but we purchased a sort of a storefront office warehouse flex space. We move in sometime in November. There's not really any major demo. We have to do some cosmetic work and have some flooring changed around and things. That's a pretty big step for us. We have 4 employees. We have 1 of them full-time and the other 3 are part-time. We're going to bring them all on full-time. We're going to increase their amount of training, some more specific stuff, get them, different computers and the whole thing. So in that way, it can free me up a little bit more to do the things that I'm actually good at that I should be doing. Part of the reason that, especially this year, it's like, Justin, we talked about it, COVID happened and I was like, I'm not going to let this fucking ruin my year. Like I have plans. I intend on doing this shit. But the only way that I was able to do that is because our employees are fucking dope as hell at what they do, even though it's not, this grand thing. Like they're fucking amazing at what they do. They're a tremendous help. And even way before Deidre quit her job, she was taking on more and more and more, which was all shit that I was previously doing. I mean, literally up until, 6 months ago, I was doing 98% of the work. She would come in, we have a meeting like once a week or once every other week for an hour. I'd fill her in. She'd talk me off the ledge or help me organize one thing. And then I'd go back and I was literally doing everything. I was doing all the profit loss. I was doing all the purchase orders. I was doing all the payroll. I was doing all the everything. I mean, everything. And so having a team that's not just interested in having the job and doing that, but they bought into why we're doing it. You know, it's not just selling shit. We're making money and you're making money. It's like they want to be a part of the way that we're kind of disrupting this small little piece of our pie, you know?
I would say
Great.
customers. Sorry, man. I was gonna say that was part of what I wanted to talk to you about too. Is your customers. We talk about brand loyalty is extremely hard in this space. In COVID, if anything, a lot of brands that I saw get absolutely punished are the ones that have no brand loyalty, that rely a lot on sales and they rely a lot on, sort of the game of it. But you, you showed, you have some really, really loyal customers, and that will get you through times, when, no one could have predicted sort of what happened, but what we've seen from you this past year and what I've seen for some other brands that have sort of taken the slower approach is they were able to sort of mitigate this potentially disastrous year and actually probably come out ahead afterwards because, you've been able to weather the storm. But the only reason why you've been able to weather the storm, like you said, you have employees that believe in the process, and customers that just live and die by you, man. But it's because of what you provide them. I know we've had some experience with, and you see Morphogen customers, man, they swear by you. That's for sure.
They sure do. It's amazing to see. It's still very surreal and humbling for me that people even give a shit at all. But like I said, the pure reason of why we got into this whole thing and everything that I've ever done in my entire life has to have the right meaning and the right value behind it. I can't make a decision that ultimately doesn't feel like a truthful decision. That's inherently whether it's a flaw or some sort of benefit to my character, I don't know. But because I've never strayed from that, people have never been misled by me. They've never been fucked over. I've never missold anything. I've never misrepresented myself or misrepresented the brand or done anything. And so people have no reason to not trust what I'm saying because I've said a lot. I've said a lot of the good shit, but I've also said a lot of the bad shit too. I've absolutely nothing to hide. And when you put all the chips out in front of you, people can either, they can either play or they can not play. And if they play, then they are all in. They are all in.
I just think that you guys do everything with intention. It seems like, all your formulas are done intentionally the way they are. It seems like the way that you hire, like everyone that you bring on is part of the team. There's no detail that it seems like you guys leave up to chance at all, which is really important.
Dieter and I are both way too analytical to not have it be that way. But she's the organization and I'm the vision, but we're both pretty OCD about both of those things. I'm very, very, very borderline controlling about the way that I foresee things going, and things have to make sense. I always said, if you put a formula together, it can look great on paper, it can feel good. If one person out of thousands comes to me and questions a decision that I made, I have to have a good answer. The answer can't be I don't know or money. Both of those are shitty answers. Yeah. Even if money is a real answer, if somebody goes, why didn't you put this ingredient? I'll say, because it costs $6 and that product already costs too much. And that's a fair statement. But I don't want anybody to ever come back and question anything, any formula, any ingredient, any inclusion, any dose, because then it weighs, on my reputation and this, thing that I'm trying to build. So it has to be intentional. Otherwise you falter, because otherwise you don't have a good reason to do something. And especially now people question more and more and more and more. I did a thing earlier with Danny from Insight Subs in the UK. And somebody goes, why do you use, rice flour in one of your capsule products when this other company does it? I said, because that ingredient won't go through the machines and it'll, whatever. Like, I literally have no reason to not say what's going on. I'm not saying, well, it's, some bullshit answer. It's literally, we don't have a choice. I don't care. And if you care that it's in there, then you're wrong, because it's such microscopic amounts that it doesn't matter. And if that bothers you, then perhaps you should go buy somebody else's product. I don't care.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Is these days it gets so granular with the things that people look at, which is good, and it can be bad and kind of like really annoying, but it's good that people are thinking about certain things. So you have to have an answer. And I know that's just one thing that you and I have always talked about. I know for a fact that you wouldn't be able to sleep at night if you were cutting corners. And that's why it's like whenever, you hear people, you hear maybe other brands, you hear people, and that's why you're like, I don't care, because I know that these are the decisions that leads me. And we talk about this a lot, like in our own businesses and our own things that we do. I'm like, I have to be able to sleep at night. So, and if I can, then I don't really care too much about what anybody else thinks about it. So I know that's like how you feel about your products. It's like, if I'm going to give these to my family, if I'm going to give these to other people's families, then I have to be able to live with every decision I make. And that's why it's easier for you to defend them, I think.
Yeah. I mean, everything I've ever done in my entire life has been 100% with conviction, without wavering whatsoever. It's created a great life. It's created a lot of hardship along the way too, and not just in this space, but in a number of things that I've done in my day. And I have absolutely zero apologies for any of it. I have a perfect explanation as to why I did it, as to how my thought processes work in coming to those conclusions about whatever decisions I make. And people may not agree with the final outcome, but they can at least appreciate and understand my thought processes and how I came to that decision, and know that I'm not just reckless with it or just fucking around or whatever. Like I cannot do that. I cannot operate that way.
So let me ask, because you started bringing up, the ingredients in your products, and obviously MORPHOGEN is known for like 12 capsule products, huge scoops, ridiculous doses of stuff. Who is your intended consumer? Are you really only looking towards those
Me.
serious consumers? Yourself. All right.
Me.
There
That's a
you go.
completely fair answer.
Here's the thing. I've always said I'm not a businessman. I'm not. I have zero business background. I'm a science guy. I was kind of like an art savant growing up a little bit. So this business is literally a perfect, merger of my artistic brain and my science brain. And it just, in my head, it makes sense. I can sometimes explain it and I sometimes can't, but I can see the brand as a whole. And people go, you came out with this one product 3 years ago and you came out with this one now, and they stack perfectly and there's nothing crossover. And how did you know? And I go, I don't know. I just know. Like, it's just the way that my brain works. So it is what it is.
So,
go ahead, Ben.
well, I just kind of want to kind of get into the whole idea, because you guys really create products that you almost pigeonhole yourself to only serious consumers. Do you see the industry adapting to products that are just like yours, or do you see that? Do you just accept that some mainstream consumers, MORPHOGEN's not going to fit for them?
Both. I would say up until recent history, it was the latter. It was literally, I do not care about those customers. Okay. I've always said that everything we do has to be, like you said, intentional. There has to be a logic behind it. If somebody is easily swayed by something that's not logical, marketing, false promises, boredom, how many people jump from pre-workout to pre-workout to pre-workout because all their workouts suck? Maybe they're just a pussy and they refuse to take ownership of that, and they're looking to, outsource that blame. I'm not using the right product, blah, 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 blah. People that do not value the logic behind what is going on, you can never possibly connect with them. So there's no reason to even worry about that consumer base. That is 80% of the market anyways. And that space is incredibly overfilled, incredibly competitive. Even if I wanted to be in that space, I don't have the business acumen to be in that space and be successful. So there was no reason for me to ever even consider it. Years ago, we had people that say, why don't you come out with a more affordable collegiate line that was kind of like simpler formulas? I go, because there are 1,000 brands that fit that. More than 1,000, 10,000. I mean, every store in the fucking world has hundreds of these things. I'm a nobody in that space. Nor do I want to buy. I don't want to buy that. I don't want to use those products. And everything that I've ever done with the business is with not the consumer in mind. It's with me as the consumer in mind. If I were purchasing from me, what experience do I want? I don't want to pay for shipping. I don't want to get hit with $10 fucking at shipping. Gone. What's the next one? I want fully stacked products. Check. I don't want to have to add 50 things and take 5 scoops. Check. I want it to be, these stackable things and blah, blah, blah. Check. And because people align with the way that I think about those things, it's great. Anybody that doesn't, I cannot change the way that I operate to pander to people that don't think in the same vein. It's a blessing and a curse in both respects.
Well, and to add to that, which I respect that much of it, but at the same time, one thing that I know, and one thing that customers of yours that reach out to me and talk to me, we talk a lot about, there's people that have certain successes, in this industry, and one thing that they do really well that you are as good as anybody is you talk to people all day long, every single day. I know if I message you 24 hours a day, you're probably going to respond. And I know that, so that's kind of it, is there's that balance. So you're like, okay, I know that I can't help this person, but those people that do believe in me and think like me, you will do anything for those people. And that's one thing that has always stuck out about me. And every time people talk about you, it's like they're just like dumbfounded by how much like you respond to them and talk to them. But it's just really important. Like when you find your people, it's like what we talk about a lot on here. Not everyone is your people, but when you find your people, you would do anything for those people. And
Absolutely.
that's how you do it just out of the genuineness of you trying to help. And like that's how you build a brand and brand loyalty, especially these days when there's just so much sort of like smoke and mirrors out there. So that's just one thing that I know that a lot of people tell me all the time is, just how much they appreciate how much your time you're willing to spend. It takes a lot of fucking time and a lot of work.
Sure does. And the thing is, yes, it's a lot, but it is who I am. Like I said, everything that I've done professionally and academically has revolved around education in some capacity, acquiring information, figuring that information out, giving that information to people in a way that they can apply that information. Because knowledge for the sake of knowledge without being able to use it is worthless. And knowing more than the next guy, but not being able to tell anybody, and worthless. So the thing that I've always focused on is dissecting the information and then presenting it in a way that people can understand and rally behind. And if they rally behind it, then it's that loyalty, then they'll never go away. I used to manage hundreds of college students. I was big in student development and mentoring, and I helped a ton of people get jobs and graduate assistantships and internships. I mean, for years and years and years. I still actually kind of do it here and there on the side. I used to teach at a university, so I taught in their sports science department. I used to teach for personal training certification organizations. Everything I've ever done has literally been speaking to people about the stuff that they're asking about. It's one of the only things that I'm good at. So if people are reaching out, I'm going to respond. It's going to get to the point as we scale that I'm not going to be able to answer every single question all the time.
Right.
That's why we're bringing our staff on and slowly integrating them into the customer service aspect where they can be a reflection of me. Mm-hmm. It can't just be somebody randomly answering questions. They have to know what to fucking say, and it has to look like it comes from the brand. I mean, it has to, just feel like MORPHOGEN. But that precedent was set by the fucking millions of, in 9 years, how many fucking DMs have I got? Just from you.
Again, sounds like Jacob, though. Like, you have such a distinct voice and style of teaching. You educate through your platform, and it's a lot like Jacob's platform, where like your voice and your methods are so distinct that when you bring on someone else that ends up representing you, it's got to be hard to let go of that. I know I don't even let anyone else edit my videos because I don't want anyone else to change the way that I'm presenting my content and education. I could not imagine letting anyone else speak for like me in that way. So that's gotta be tough.
Right. And you guys will be happy to know that I do not edit updates anymore. I've actually given up that control. I will say, though, that any small business or getting started into business, it's hard to give up that control because that is your baby. And honestly, it's been a mental struggle for me to scale up and to figure out systems in which I communicate with our customers and translate that to Austin and Isaac and, hopefully Brandon as we bring him on. So, yeah, I totally agree. I mean, we're trying to scale every possible response that I give to people because we see, anywhere from 50 to 70 to even 90 people a day on average. And that constant just question and answer in person. I totally agree with what Ben's saying there. So, but yeah, I appreciate that.
So you have so it's just I really want to hear you say like you have no interest in providing products that are like any less than what you're creating now, like that collegiate line. Like you literally because you have this vision. I'm guessing like 10
I can't
years.
do it. Can't
I
do it.
love that. That's cool.
And here's the thing, you know, there are brands doing great things, and they have side brands, they have house brands, they have all these sorts of things. Could I do that? Sure. Is it going to not? They're not only going to create any sort of impact, like a real impact, but financially, where I'm in is growing. I cannot possibly put any effort or money or anything into something else, even if it could be monetized appropriately, because I know that I'm not going to fucking care and put what needs to be in it. And especially, from the mid-range to the bargain type brands, they exist. I don't even know how I would possibly enter that space and convince people to do them, because I'm a logical guy. I'm a very over the top thinker. There's no way that I could possibly sell somebody on something that's less than epic. There's just no fucking way. Because they're gonna start asking questions. I'm gonna go, well, I mean, it could have this, but I don't. I mean, it could have this, and then I'm gonna go, fuck it, just buy MORPHOGEN shit. Like, just spend an extra. And the funny thing is even in terms of that, like, yes, people look at the brand and they go, well, that's only for the very serious consumer, and in some respects, that's accurate. Somebody new to the space, a brand new consumer of sports nutrition products, absolutely can benefit from the stuff if they understand and appreciate what they're getting and why they're paying what they're paying. We're not charging $60 a unit. We probably should, but we're not. We also have affiliate codes. We also have free shipping that needs to be taken into account. So when you factor all these things in and you break it down over a month's supply of something, you might be spending an extra 20 cents a day. You don't have 20 cents a day, 20 cents. Perhaps you need to reevaluate all of your decisions if you can't spend an extra 20 cents on something towards your goal in a day. And that's kind of how I think about it. So if somebody cannot think that way, then they are not my customer. I will not make a product for them.
I think that was something like what Ben was saying earlier. It's sort of like the overwhelming maybe amount of ingredients and things like that, but people don't understand that a lot of that stuff, right? Anybody can sort of benefit, especially when you factor in free shipping, which you're fucking crazy for doing. But one thing that you touched on that was making me laugh was because, so as I don't know, man, you have 5,000 products and you're developing like 1,000 more before the end of the year.
Maybe pending COVID.
Right. You're starting to get a little more specific with some of these products. And it was funny because I don't know if Ben, I don't know if you saw the collagen product that Ben, I just remember MORPHOGEN Ben saying, yeah, I'm working on a collagen product. And then in typical you fashion, it's like, that's kind of a collagen product, but it's like, it's fucking crazy collagen product with
complex.
Like crazy shit.
It's not just bovine collagen, period. Right. Not just that. I cannot do that. I
can't help yourself.
No. And the thing is this too, is even from a commodity standpoint, it either has to have added value, monetary value for the consumer for an already great ingredient, like a Pico 2, like a Vaso 6, like a something like this. If it's creatine, what's the selling point? Price and one other ingredient. I mean, and obviously quality and, not some, Chinese heavy metal tainted bullshit. But outside of that, like where's the buying point? And then when you are able to purchase it at the same place with a product that doesn't have the creatine, and then you get the free shipping, and the whole thing kind of adds up together. So all those things that we're slowly doing from a, I call them the commodity line, but
it's really not.
None of them really are. What it is, whatever.
I when you were like showing me some of those things, like I just had this thought process. So I was like, here's you. You're like, I'm gonna make a collagen product, and you're like, all right, I'll put some collagen in there. And you're like, well, nah, let's put this in there too. Nah, fuck, let's put this in there, and let's put. Next thing you know, you have it's not a commodities product or whatever, like whatever. Okay. It's like it's a crazy product. So anyway.
But I think I haven't seen the collagen product, but knowing Ben, I kind of have an idea of what it is, because there's like, you could call it a collagen product as in it provides cheap collagen, or you could call a collagen product that not only provides collagen but also increases synthesis of collagen within the body, and all of the stuff that has to do with the impact of collagen. And it's almost just like a holistic look at categories, which I really kind of like. And there's not a lot of that in the industry. But one of the other things that I really like about Ben, which you kind of just mentioned with the Chinese crap stuff, is that you really understand ingredients. It's because for me, there's a huge gap between the science of how products work and the actual available ingredients and what you can source for it. And bridging that can kind of be sometimes a bit of an issue because you have to work through your contract manufacturer, or a lot of these researchers just aren't knowledgeable in the industry. And you seem to have bridged that really well. I think you were actually one of the first people to really explain to me the difference or lack thereof between vasodrive and amyl peptide and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, because everything I've done has to be 100% intentional and 100% complete, there's no way that I could not have a grasp on that. When I see a company use, I mean, even 250 milligrams, it's supposed to be 254 if you're using half. There's no way I could round it down to 250. I just can't. There are companies that do that, and that's fine. That's totally fine. Not a fucking chance in hell that I'm ever going to do something like that. It's 508. That's what it's going to be. And when that company tells me otherwise, then I'll change it. That's just how it's going to be. The percent extract of something, or I mean, I can't think off the top of my head.
Rhodiola dose and alphagen, like 608 or something like that.
Volugen 680. Yeah, because that's what the research says at the top dose. So why wouldn't I just fucking use that? Yeah. But the thing is that,
and I was like,
yeah, I mean, even, random XYZ ingredient, if you need, let's say 100 milligrams of actives, you can get a varying percentages of standardization on that. As long as the amount of actives at the end of the day is the same, you can potentially get a cheaper raw material that yields the same end result, but you have to use an 80% extract instead of a 90 and use 50 milligrams more, or half a gram more, whatever it might be. Our Emidin ingredient is a slightly lower yield than one of the other products on the market, but the total yield is higher, and the cost was such that we were able to offer it at a much more competitive price. Ta-da! It works. I mean, it just works. It's like a puzzle. It's like a big puzzle. It's like everything that it has to, you have to solve every angle of everything you're doing. And then once you solve it all, then you have the thing, and then the thing goes out.
So let me spice things up a little bit. I'm going to ask a bit of a controversial question here. So we've got this whole idea that, the company gives you the clinical, or you find the clinical research, and this is where the product is supposed to be. Something like vasodrive AP is a really good example for this. We have the Glaxon boys in the chat here, and they're a very, very different approach to the same idea, where they look at, well, if you have this amount of pump, you really might not need a full dose of vasodrive AP. Can you ever see yourself creating a product where you might use less of it because of mechanistic overlap, we could just call it?
Yeah, absolutely. If there is evidence to suggest that the efficacy decreases due to the overlap, absolutely.
Yeah.
If it's speculation, then it's speculation. I don't make decisions based on speculation, generally speaking. Again, with intention. If there is an ingredient that is dosed differently than what the general recommendations are, it has to make sense. And it has to make sense as part of the totality of the formula. So if somebody says, hey, I mean, in alphagen, we have a reagiorensis in there at 200 milligrams. And everybody typically goes, well, 300 is about the most that you would want to use. Why don't you use 300? Because we tried it, and it was a little too much for the overall effect that we were trying to do in that product. That's the one ingredient in there that it is a little bit less. And we did that because of the totality of the product, the total synergy of that. So I'm totally on board with the idea of lessening, it's like this ingredient's 2 and this one's 2. The output is only 3 versus 1 and 2 is still 3. But we don't know for sure that the output is 3. If 2 and 2 equals 3.1, then I still win. And that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I can't not do that. Like, I literally can't not do that.
Well, we see a lot of people, especially when you see smaller brands and things like that, that don't maybe necessarily have the resources. You'll put together formulas based on, say, studied doses, or you'll copy and paste from brand, but they don't test, right? And that's one thing that when we start talking about brands, I know like Chris over Inspired, Glaxon, there's a lot of testing that sort of goes into this. It's not a fucking fluke that these products come out and they deliver, right? It's like Alpha Line is another one. Ben can vouch for this. It's like, we'll get, you guys are like, hey, I'm working on this. It'll be 6 months to a year before the product, even comes out. And most, a lot of companies can't do that, or they won't do that. But it's like, so the testing process comes into it a lot. And that's one thing that you do quite a bit is, you test like crazy. So testing your own theories, it's like, if certain companies have their theories and they test it, and you have yours and you test it, and if it comes through, then you're happy with the results, then what the fuck are we doing?
And ultimately, that's what matters the most. It's the application of the end result. It's taking the acquired information and presenting it in a way that can be used optimally by whoever the end, the consumer, the learner, the whoever it is. And some of that is subjective. I mean, a lot of that is subjective, where, we can look at research until we're all dead and look at, measured output on single ingredients, or even some synergy between a couple ingredients here and there. But ultimately, it's a very subjective response to how do you feel using this product. If I had an overwhelming amount of people come to me and they go, Volugen's great, but these brands, I get a better pump. And if I heard that a lot, then I'm going to go, okay, maybe there's overlap here that's negating the total output of something, and then I can look at feedback. That's part of the testing process, is not just testing prior to bringing it to market, but it's consumer feedback and evolving as you go, because nothing is ever perfect. I mean, every company evolves as they go. They change things for any number of reasons. One of those reasons is always going to be consumer feedback and how they can make something better. And sometimes making something better means scaling back on something so that it is better. But until that happens, I have no reason to do that. The only reason to do that out of gate would be a financial reason. And because we don't have the pressure of margin and distribution, I've always said, if I could put $2, I mean, we did it. I mean, shit, over the last couple of years, 2 years ago, we had a crazy amount of growth and finally started to get on the map and all this, probably right when, I knew who all you guys were and all this stuff. And I literally put somewhere between $3 and $5 into every single product. And everybody goes, what the fuck are you doing? Your brand is already growing. All these formulas are already great. Why would you do that? I go, because somebody is going to create one product that matches it. Now I have to be ahead. And they go, yeah, but what about your margin? That's $3. If you sell 1,000 of these in a year, you could make an extra $3,000. I said, yeah, but putting that $3 in there means that we're going to get so much attention, and it's likely going to work at least a little better, that I'm going to sell 3,000 next year.
Yep.
Now, obviously, there's a cap. I'm not going to, going to make products for $48 and sell for $48. but because I'm a little stubborn, and because money is not my primary driver, and because I want to be at the top of my space, knowing that it will ultimately result in sales, where I don't have to take that money and funnel it into marketing. I don't have to take that money and funnel into a bunch of sales reps and a bunch of stupid bullshit and expos and all this shit. I can take that money and put it back into the product and create new products and create more flavors and create bigger units and all this kind of shit. That's where my money goes, and that ultimately has propelled the brand. Is it going to propel the brand forever? No. And when that caps, then we can start to look at traditional marketing avenues. We can start doing sponsored stuff. We can start doing these other things, which I'm all for. But we've already been scaling faster than we can possibly even manage in most, sense of the word. And
Scoreboard.
it's because of that. It's because of the way that we've approached that.
It seems to me like you guys are in a better position to, like you said, you wouldn't, make something for 48 and sell it for 48, but you could get a lot closer to that 48 than a lot of other brands could.
You would be surprised. There are a few of our products that, when you factor in very modest affiliate codes and free shipping, and the way, if I ship a tub of Protogen, one tub of Protogen to fucking Portland, Oregon, I lose $1.
Yeah.
Or $2. And we know that, and that sucks. But the goal in creating that product was to create a better valued, better experienced product for the consumer, so that they don't go somewhere else to get it and then are tempted to buy something else while they're there. If we can offer them the best of everything, then they never go anywhere else. Our total order value has gone up every year. Our number of orders has gone up every year. That means people are buying more from us and we're making more per order, even though some of those, they're loss leaders basically. I mean,
Right.
our proteins are 3 pounds instead of 2. If I made them 2, we could still sell them for the way that they sell. People would still love them, and I would make an extra, $8 a unit, but I'm not.
Yeah, I remember the first time I got the ProtoGen and I realized it was 3 pounds because I was thinking about the shipping and the price and everything like that. And I got
it. It totally fucks us.
I saw it 3 pounds. I saw it was actually 3 pounds. I was like, what the fuck is the matter with you?
Yeah, fuck us.
Don't do
Whatever.
that.
I don't care.
Yeah. And I know supplement.
Yeah, and you know what? And you know why we did it? You know why we did it? Because we could.
Because you can.
Right.
Yeah.
Because not only because we can, but in some sense, I feel a little bit of a responsibility. I can't do that. I have to make some money. Like, we have to pay bills, right? But if something, again, the totality of everything, it's like this grand vision. It's like, not bullet points. It's this whole big construct of everything. If we look at the brand as a whole, how does that fit into the brand? What makes it special beyond just being good, right? It tastes good. It has protein. Cool. There's 1,000 of them. What makes it better? Value. That's the one thing. So if somebody adds it to their order and they buy 5 things and it ships to Portland, the shipping only goes up $2. I now make all the profit on that tub, even though it's still not great. But overall, things are still going well. And I've done something great for them, and it's propelled my brand forward. So I have no reason to not do that.
Not a lot of people make a lot of money off of protein anyway.
Nope. Nobody can compete with I mean, let's face it, there's like 2 big companies that sell all the protein in the fucking world, and nobody can compete with them. And even those companies will undercut their own value to get shelf space, knowing that they're going to make a higher margin on a shittier product in the same store.
Well, those companies also lose lots of their pallets to Amazon, and and then that trickles down into my realm, which I get pissed about every week. Yep. But
well, I think one thing, and Ben, Ben, you can back me up. You can back me up.
I have no clue which Ben you guys are saying every time you say Ben, by the way.
I'm just speaking to both of you, honestly. If I say Ben, I'm just like, hey, both.
And when we see a lot of brands, like you were talking a little bit ago, and like, we're talking about Glaxon, they're doing the same kind of thing. You're making changes to your formulas based on, like, say you're gathering tons and tons of feedback from your customers. You're talking to your customers every single day. That's one thing that Glaxon does is, man, they're big. They want to know what people think, like, more than anything. They're like, fuck it, we'll lose some money. We just want to know what you guys think, like, kind of thing. Price Plow, Ben and I know a lot of brands will only change a formula and maybe spend more money on a formula or something like that when push really comes to shove and they really have no other choice. We see legacy brands do it all the time. They wait until the last possible minute. They're like, fuck, we have to go fully transparent because this is what people are demanding these days. They don't ever try to stay ahead of the curve. Whereas, like, you guys, it's, your ability to sort of pivot and sort of get that feedback and sort of stay ahead of that has been, I think one thing that keeps you on the top. But it just goes back to just how much social media has helped you, and like how much, obviously Instagram is where I see you the most, but just staying on top of that and just utilizing that tool. So I was going to talk to you, like, how much has that sort of changed over the years? Because there's a couple questions I have for you about how things have sort of changed, because you've been in business for a while, but like, how has like the social media aspect of it changed how you approach, business, I guess, in general? Kind of a broad question, but MORPHOGEN, Ben.
It has basically, it's caused me to level up in a sense. And I mean that both in terms of my own efficiency and my own creativity and my own work output, but also in terms of what we're offering. People want protein bars. People want specific flavors. People want mushrooms in their coffee. People want all this kind of shit, stuff that I never thought that I would get into. There's probably at least 10 of our products. And at some point over the last 5 years, I said, I'll never fucking do that. And so many people on social media were posting all this shit. And I was like, well, now I have to do it, but I can fucking do it better. And so I would do it. I mean, I love protein bars. I never wanted to get into that space. I was happy buying whatever was fucking on the shelf. but everybody was posting their shit, and all these, people boomerang their bars, and they whatever, and they make little shit, and I'm like, I have to do it, and I have to do it better, and that's just what it's going to be. And so leveling up in a big way. Yeah, I mean, it's like a combination of pressure and challenge, and a little bit of ego and a little bit of financial incentive, and all that kind of rolled into one for sure.
So when's the Morphogen energy drink coming? Son of a bitch! It is.
This is something I could get behind right here.
I knew it.
We have a number of things that we would like to explore moving into 2021. That is one of several things on the list. You know of one of them. I'll be happy to tell you guys one of those other ones behind the scenes. I don't want to divulge that information just yet, but I have some ideas. I don't plan on releasing 50 Morphogen products in 2021. I'm not gonna. I have other plans with things that I am curious about that I'm not even sure that I can monetize, but I just want to do some other creative things. Even if God forbid it, if somebody came in and like, I'll give you $20 million for your company tomorrow, like, I would have to start another company. I would have to do something. Like, I can't. This outlet has to go somewhere. Like, I have to do something. So energy drinks are on the radar. I've actually been looking at stuff for a while. Just some logistical issues, storage space, price, blah 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 blah. All that. It's a fucking shit show. But
wholesale.
I gotta ask. I'm sorry.
No, but
I heard it, and then I was like, I was I don't know what to do.
All right, never mind. I'm just messing with him.
As Ben Hartman, who like doesn't half-ass anything, do you drink like Monsters and Bangs? Oh,
I love it.
They nailed this one, by the way.
Yeah, the mango.
That's a controversial opinion.
I like that one.
Haven't tried the other ones yet. We have, my wife and I are notorious canned beverage consumers. I mean, that's literally all we drink is Diet Pop and energy drinks. It's kind of a problem. I try everything. Every single day when I wake up, without fail, I will have either something like this or a Monster Zero or something every single day, first thing in the morning. Nothing is better than crack it open a can of something cold and delicious with some caffeine in it. Hell yeah.
Okay, because I'm curious to that because I couldn't. Well, so that's actually a great example right there. I was going to name them specifically, but that flavor right there has people complaining about the scent of it for the supplements that are in it, and I can only imagine if Morphogen did one, where that flavor would go.
People always find something to complain about because it gives them a sense of control where they have none in a space that they don't. I don't want to say they don't matter, but they're not, this grand figure. And people like to align themselves with some problem that seems bigger than them. And it's not just in the supplement space. I mean, that's everything going on. That's everything going on in the world right now. I mean, it just is. That's just human nature. So, I mean, some people just hate mango. Well, then don't fucking drink the mango. I mean, I even get people every now and then that are like, I really don't like the smell of Morphocalm capsules. I'm like, what the fuck are you sniffing them for? Just put them in your mouth and swallow them. Like, what are you doing?
Let me work on that for you.
Yeah, let me change the formula because you don't like the smell of something that you shouldn't be smelling or tasting anyways.
Well, actually, fun story on that. Alpha Lion, in their superhuman gut, it smelled so horrible that they actually added banana flavor to it. So that it doesn't. So the capsules actually smell like banana, but
yeah, that's a good fun fact because it smells really good.
I literally called the manufacturer and was like, "Why do these smell like banana?"
That's weird. I mean, that's a great idea, but that's hilarious.
Well, so I'm actually gonna lobby for Jacob here now. When can we see some wholesale with Morphogen? Because I know it's possible.
I'm not going to push that because I understand how. I think I reached out to Ben about a year and a half ago, right after.
I probably shut you down immediately. Yeah.
Well, no, and it's like right after I opened my store, man. I had just found out who Justin was through Ben, and I found you, and I was like, holy shit, these formulas are incredible. I want them all over my store, like right now. And I reached out, and that was before I got into manufacturing myself and understood the cost of ingredients and how certain formulas cost a certain amount, and so since then I don't want to push that because I understand how stacked your formulas are, and there's very little room for budging there. So I get it.
Well,
But,
and we get that question a lot.
Yeah.
I get that question a lot. So I can imagine how much you get that question.
A lot. And I've talked about it a lot. And here's the thing. I'm not against it in any capacity.
Right.
There have been some people over the last few years that have taken great offense to me declining such a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why they're, again, the logic just goes completely out the window.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is that as we're scaling upwards, we only have so much inventory. We're doing a lot. 99% of our sales are, direct domestic sales.
Yeah.
When everything caps out and there are untapped markets to hit, it obviously makes sense to go into distribution and wholesale things to continue the growth of the brand. That obviously makes sense. You can't do that and liquidate all your inventory on a wholesale level at a cost that gives the stores the ability to make a decent profit when you're making products that cost 3 times or 4 times to make as somebody else's, and still grow your brand. And then I've had a number of people that go, well, you're just greedy and you're just trying to make more money. First of all, fuck you. Even if I wanted to, fuck you for even questioning that, because I'm running a business. And second of all, you can't grow a brand without profit, because how do I keep coming out with new products? By funding them with the profit from all the other products.
Fucking crazy, right? That's
people go, oh, you keep running out of this. Why don't you just buy more? First of all, I am buying more, but buying more takes money to buy them. So if I sold them to stores, I would make even less money, and I could buy, it's like I can't. It's a fucking numbers game. It's a math game, and I'm not against it in any capacity whatsoever. And there are certainly a few stores that I would absolutely love to align with. Love to. I cannot do it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
I
understand that. I think
at all.
I think anybody that truly would take offense to the no doesn't understand supplement manufacturing whatsoever. And it's not a bad thing. I mean, most retailers don't. They go for the lowest price. They go for the highest margin. A lot of supplement retailers don't even care about the formula. So, I understand that. I didn't at the time. I was like, oh, okay, well, all right, cool. But now, as I've grown and gotten to know who you are and what your brand is more, I'm like, okay, yeah, makes sense.
And part of the thing too is that even if the inventory was there, even if the reach was there, and all that's good, we have a price that we're selling things at, and we've made that known across the board. And there's a reason that we have that price, and it all fits into everything. Mm-hmm. I mean, up until 3 years ago, we did sell to we were in a couple dozen small stores dotted throughout the country, and they wanted me to sell my products for higher so that they could sell them for what I was selling them for, which makes sense, right? You have MSRP, you have retail cost, you have, it all trickles down. And I'm going, well, I can't sell it for more because I've set this precedent, and it's part of the value of, again, the total experience of what I'm giving. Yes, my prices are a little higher than average, but they're not as high as they could be. I certainly could be charging shipping. I certainly could be charging an extra $2 a unit or $5 a unit, and people will still do it. But part of the reason that we have grown so much, and I don't have hard data to, support any of this, is it any one thing we've done, or it's obviously a combination of all of it. But if I tomorrow took away the free shipping, we would still make a killing. But if I lost even 10% of my sales to save money on shipping, I'm going to make less money. The business is going to make less money. We can grow less because I was greedy about one thing that's 10% of our, not even 10% of our gross sales. So how can I possibly take the risk to remove that? How can I possibly take the risk to add $2 to every SKU across the board so that a retailer can sell it for 45 and I'm selling it for 48? You know what I mean? It's like it is a game, and it is a business. And as much as people want to do things the best way and the right way, everybody still has some bills to pay. You still have to, do something. Otherwise we would all just be, doing everything non-monetized just to make a difference. And when we all, sell our companies for $20 million, we can start doing that together. But until that day comes, we have to make money. So it just is what it is.
I respect that.
I've never understood stores getting pissed off when brands do things different. We saw it a lot with like Ghost as an obvious example. We saw a lot of brick and mortar get pissed off when someone does D2C, like Alani Nu and stuff like that. And I've never understood people that just like feel the need to tell other people what to do with their business. Like there's some rules to this whole thing. Like you have to be in wholesale. That's like the old way, you know?
Well, and not only that, but isn't it like hilarious that a lot of people that say those things, we talk about the people that have been in the industry, well, this is the way things have always been done. I swear to God, if I hear that fucking line from someone one more time in this industry, like I just lose my mind. It's like, here's how it's, so you're making products that are different. So why the fuck would you do things the same way everybody else does? It makes no sense. Like, oh, I'm gonna make a line. I'm gonna come out with these products. They're gonna be different, but then I'm gonna do things exactly how everybody else does them.
And expect different results. Yeah.
No. And so to speak on the fact why retailers get pissed is that because they see themselves as authoritarians, because 15, 20 years ago, the brick and mortar retailer kind of had the industry by the balls a little bit. I mean, before the internet was big, you know, that's the only place where you can go and get these kind of items. Well, now they don't even see themselves as a brand. They see themselves as a brick and mortar retailer, and they deserve for MORPHOGEN Ben to allow them to come in. No. See, I see TNS as a brand in its own. If my brand and his brand align, hell yeah, let's make some magic. But these retailers who are getting pissed, and the only reason I'm so like fired up about this because I know there were some small brick and mortar retailers who did not like the fact that we brought in Ghost Energy, and they couldn't. And I'm like, okay, what are you doing to make yourself marketable as a brand? This goes outside of retail, but what are you doing to make yourself, desired?
So they're mad at you because you did business things, not personal things, but business things for your business that made sense.
Yeah.
All they're doing is projecting their own insecurity because they did something wrong.
I'm trying to bite my lip and not talk about this damn group again on Facebook, but I'm not going to go there again. But yeah, that's what that consists of. A lot of that.
But half of those brick and mortar owners in there would have scoffed at the idea of doing a podcast with two content creators with brands that they could never get in their store. Like half of those brick and mortars, if I was like, "Hey, you want to do a podcast with Morphogen Ben?" They'd be like, "Perfect, yeah. How can I purchase their products and sell in my store?" You can't.
Well, half of them would probably be like, half of them would probably be like, "Yeah," but they'd also be like, "Well, wait, what do I bring to the table? Like, what's But yeah,
I can totally get all that. I mean,
yeah.
It's funny that you're talking about Ghost too, because there's things that, from knowing Dan and knowing Ben, Morphogen Ben, there's actually like a lot of similarities when it comes to like relationships. And that's what, like one thing I was going to talk to you about, Ben, was, as much as we try to like stick to our own things, it is still a small industry and relationships do matter, when it comes to certain things. And you're very, specific about your relationships. I think that was the one thing we talked to Dan from Ghost about that really struck home with me is you would think, okay, so Ghost, they're a decent sized brand. And so, we do GNC and stuff like that. But when you talk to them, the amount of time and attention to each relationship, and now like, he's working with Jacob, one of the few people that has, exclusivity to their energy drinks. There's reasons behind all this stuff. So, you mentioned about like from a philosophical standpoint, you're very much like, I want to stick in my own lane, but you also realize that in order to grow, you do have to build sort of relationships sort of here and there. So I didn't know, like, that's something you and I talked like in private about, like that's sort of a process that, we've both gone through, I think. And it's just kind of an interesting, I don't know if you want to talk about that, like how you sort of have stick your lane, but you still sort of, realize that you have to kind of do that process, but you build relationships with people that really like share your sort of same values.
Yeah, I'm not even sure I have to do it. In the beginning, absolutely.
I said that word, I was like, fuck, that's
See, here's the thing. Yes, I was afforded opportunities and contacts early on because of relationships that I developed. Absolutely. I'm not, obviously. And moving forward, I absolutely plan on developing more because I want to, because it's because I want to align with people that are also creating an impact in the space that I'm in, are also doing things that make a difference. Even if I sold my company and retired, I would still align myself and support those types of entities. But to say that you don't have to fucking do anything.
Sure.
Now, there are certain things from a business perspective that might make more sense to do. If somebody comes across my path that I value what they're doing, I respect the way that they do it, I'm inspired by what they do, I think that they seem like genuine people, they don't, there's no bad blood, there's no weird vibes, I can get on board with that. Even from a friendship perspective. As soon as I feel like somebody's expecting me to, suck their dick for some favor, like, I'm fucking done. Like, I don't care who you are. I don't care how much money you have and influence and who the fuck you are. There's somebody in the industry that I've met a dozen times, relatively large name in the industry. And a few years back, I thought that I needed to try to align with this person for any number of reasons. And I had already been in this person's path a number of times. And I didn't expect, these welcoming sort of, friend thing. But every time I saw this person, they introduced themselves and asked me who I was. And I don't care who they are or what their name is or what their reach is or their contacts or their experience in the industry or whatever. They're dead to me because that's bullshit. Because then that means that I have to become something that I don't want to become as a person to pander to a business relationship that might be beneficial. But then I'm changing who I am for this. And then do I change my brand for who they are just because they have this thing? It's like, fuck you. I don't fucking care. I'm not going to do that. I refuse to do that. Refuse.
Yeah.
When the good ones are put in place, I will absolutely be all in. I will latch on. I will divulge too much. I will be completely vulnerable and completely supportive. And that's just who I am. I am so 100% in and trusting and all of that until somebody shows their true colors. And then I am completely done, like done.
Yeah, it's kind of like the employee conversation sort of ties in the same thing. Like, you don't have to hire someone to take some of the responsibility off you. You don't have to align with someone to maybe help push your brand. You don't have to bring on an ambassador, but when those genuine people do come along, you're like, fuck. And I just know that you're very protective over what you do, and you're very it's why you blew me off a bunch of times, but whatever, we don't have to talk about that. But like,
I don't know who the fuck you were, bro. You know how many DMs I get in a day from creepy bearded dudes asking for favors and shit? I don't know.
I thought you answered all your DMs, Ben.
Yeah, not all of them. But no, but that was one thing that, and because I'm the same way, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, you hear so much from so many people, and it's like, sometimes maybe to your detriment, you're blowing people. You're like, you know what? You might be missing opportunity.
Well, and here's the thing too, and that's a funny situation, is right around that time was when we were getting a lot of, sudden attention. I was getting blown up by every single person doing any sort of review in the entire world who has any sort of, you have 20 YouTube followers, cool, send me 5 DMs a day. I was getting absolutely blown up, and I was just like, no. Because even if I wanted to, we couldn't possibly, even the thing that we had a couple months ago with the one review company, I don't want to talk about.
Please don't. Let's not do that.
But the thing is this, and it's all water under the bridge. Everything's been mended. It's been, things are fine. Things are understood now. But at the time, it was very much like, I don't have the ability to even provide in your market at all.
Right.
So even if I valued what you do, and I don't even know who you are at the moment, but even if I valued what you did and I thought it was a good partnership, I cannot fulfill my end of the bargain by providing goods to your region of where you're reviewing. So there's no reason for me to do it. When the time comes, I will reconsider it. But at the time, the answer is no.
Mm-hmm.
People get their feelings hurt. This is business.
You're ridiculously fair about that too. And you even, I saw you went back and, like, when it was a viable option, you went back and made it right. It made sense.
Yeah, and the thing is they established a better relationship whether it was perfectly genuine or not is irrelevant at this point, because nothing has burned me. If it burns me, either on a personal level or a professional level, then I will sever that tie. But there was a bit of a misunderstanding in the beginning, and then I think there was some leveraging my name and my brand for their message. And the reason that I was declining it had to have been because of a reason that wasn't just, what it was. And so they used that to leverage a position of importance in their own world. And I get where that came from, but I had to fucking say something. I mean, I don't care if one person saw it. I had to say something. I had to. And then it just turned into a fucking shit show. So.
Well, and to move on, right? And right, for sure. There was another thing, because I know we want to talk about like some more like non-supplement related stuff here. There was one thing I wanted to ask you about that I've been curious. You started with AlphaGen was like your product, the original one. The manufacturing process, now that you definitely have more like leverage with manufacturers, can you talk about maybe like just how much has changed for you? Because I think a lot of people get in, like young brands get in there and man, they don't have much control over the manufacturing process, and there's a lot of you're sort of going into it kind of blind. Can you talk maybe a little bit, because the manufacturing process is getting a lot more attention these days. And when you see stuff like you, and I know there's been sort of like, you've grown. So I didn't know if you wanted to talk about like how just being able to have a little bit more control over your formulas and your timelines and stuff like that has sort of changed for you from a small brand.
So, I mean, there's 1,000 manufacturers, and every one of them has subtle differences in offerings of raw materials and flavors and minimums and lead times and price, and all of that's good and well. We have a few manufacturers that we've been with for a while. Our primary manufacturer we've been with for a few years now, and a big reason that we've stayed is because of the rapport that we built back and forth. And it's not a dollar, it's not a promise, it's not a this and this. It's literally the dialogue back and forth, almost to an excessive degree.
Yeah, you do a lot.
And I was very, from the beginning, I said, listen, I'm a small brand. I create products like this. I don't want to be pushed in another direction. I have expectations. If you provide me expectations, then those are my expectations. Then I don't expect you to change those or not hold up your end of that. I request a lot of formula quotes. I request a lot of samples. If this is not something that you are okay with, then that's fine. I will go somewhere else. And they have been overall very good with that. They've had their own growing pains, over the course of time, as any brand has that's grown. But we've kind of grown at the same pace in terms of percentage scaling, size, number of staff, all these sorts of things, where they understand. You know what I mean? It's like, especially my one dude at the one company, like we talk all the time, and we're basically on like the same journey. Slightly different companies, slightly different business models, but we're basically kind of on the same journey, and it's like, oh, my fucking employees did this, or these customers did this, or check out this awesome milestone I hit. And he tells me the same shit. And then I'm like, we have these conference calls every week, and we literally do this with, 3 or 4 of them. And Dieter and I get on there, and we just troubleshoot all the projects we have going on. And we talk about timelines, and we talk about all the COVID delays with capsules and raw material shit. And we talk about cool ideas and cool new ingredients coming in. And it's just so much back and forth that it's not just some dude sending me an email from nowhere and then saying, I can beat that price. I'm like, how much, even if they beat it by $1, like I'm getting so much value that's worth more than that $1 in that relationship that we've taken time to develop. And it's with a company that they're not perfect, but I know that what we're doing is good because we have control measures in place to make sure that everything is good. Anytime mistakes are made, things are rectified quickly. I mean, mistakes get made even with the best manufacturing companies, even in the best brands. Every now and then you'll get a jug that doesn't have a scoop in it. Every now and then you'll get something and they, who knows, right? Maybe a label gets crinkled on 50 fucking tubs of something. I mean, I don't know. And those are growing pains and things can be rectified, but it's the brands that are willing to develop those relationships and kind of have a cohesive plan on how everybody's going to grow moving forward. We've gotten to the point that we've developed really, for us, beneficial terms, financial terms, in terms of purchase orders and expectations of, net 30 or net 90 or, whatever they may be, where we didn't have that 2 years ago. And if I were to switch to a different manufacturer today, I likely wouldn't have those right out of the gate. So it's like restarting the whole process over again. Also, I can save $1, and that maybe save $1. That's a big one. Yeah. So,
can I ask, with a manufacturer like that, you have a great rapport with. The way that you formulate is obviously like very in tune with the way that you think and stuff. Do these guys give you feedback on the formula? Do they give you?
Oh yeah. Cool. So I don't get a ton of feedback on functionality. It's more, logistics. It's those ingredients won't go in a capsule. Those ingredients taste like death. No matter, you can't flavor it, has to go in a capsule. Those ingredients, XYZ, it's like, we know that on average you might be able to get 700 milligrams of product into a capsule, but this raw material is fluffy. You can only get 500. So now your product has 6 capsules instead of 4. And so there's a lot of back and forth like this. Or it's, they heard coming down the line that one of these raw materials is going to be in short demand, or, in short supply and very high demand, and the price is going to change, but it hasn't yet. And they kind of forewarned me. And so maybe we go in a different direction with something, or maybe we tweak a product in anticipation of something happening. We're usually pretty good about getting ahead of that kind of stuff because of the dialogue that we've had back and forth.
Huge. Yeah.
Yeah. Huge. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's like, I don't know exactly how the analogy goes, but there's an analogy about termites in your home. And it's like, you could build this grand mansion with the biggest windows and a pool and the biggest, room and hardwood floors and, all this, luxury and granite and blah, 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 blah. And the whole time you're doing this, you're ignoring this teeny little family of termites in this one little spot, right, that you're unaware of. And over the course of time, all of a sudden the house falls down. And it's not because everything in the house wasn't great and the foundation wasn't great. It's because of one stupid little problem was left unattended. And so being able to go back and forth and talk about every single teeny little thing, I mean, they have to be sick of me at some point. I remember it was well over a year ago. So we've been with this manufacturer, I think, for 3 years. I think right around 3 years. And it was well over a year ago. So we had probably only been with them for maybe a year and a half or 2 years. And I sent them like some quotes for something, and they go, "Bro, you've sent us almost 1,000 quotes." And that was over a year ago. I bet you that number is at 2,500 by now. I mean, it's because when I do a formula, I have a general sense of what I'm trying to do, but I'll put together 3 versions of something, having a general idea of, 3, 6, and 9 capsules, or, money doesn't matter. I'm poor, middle. And then we kind of go from there. And every now and then they'll give me some raw materials prices, price per kg or MOQs, and I can kind of do some math on my own, and it's streamlined the process a little bit, but I have absolutely overwhelmed them for sure.
Well, yeah, I remember one time you were talking about a product you wanted to make, and you're like, "Well, I have to see if this is physically possible first." I was like, "Okay."
So when we did Nephrogen, they swore to me that it was impossible. They swore to me. They go, "Let's just put it in caps. We can put the same serving size in 12 capsules, and that'll fit in a 25-ounce jug, the same size jug as Alphagen, as Morphe Omega. And there's another company in the industry that has a 12 capsule kidney product, and whatever." And I go, "I have to know if it can be flavored." And they go, "We don't even want to put the samples together because we know it's not." I go, "Listen to me. I'm going to put together these samples, and you're going to do these flavors, and you're going to add extra citric acid, or you're going to do this and this to change the blah, 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 blah. You're just going to do it, and you're going to send them to me." And they did it, and they sent them to me, and I go, "They're both perfect. We're going to order both." And we did. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. I didn't realize I came up at NutriBio, and we were able to literally manufacture the next room over. So I didn't realize how frustrating it is to deal with contract manufacturers when you're not there. Like, you can't go do that stuff. It's like, not to be able to have hands on has got to be just so frustrating. Like you.
Well, so we've been there, but it's not like I'm there sampling. Right. So there has to be a lot of back and forth, and this has been a fucked up year with COVID delays, and they've been growing and we've been growing, and it's just all over the place. If if they were next door and I could walk over there and get samples made and go back and forth for 2 hours and finalize a flavor instead of a month, a back and forth, like we would be done with everything this year already. Everything that we plan on doing this year, we'd be done.
I
All
think
those products that everybody's waiting for me to do, we'd be done. Maxogen would be out if I would have gotten my sample 2 months ago instead of a week ago, you know? So it is what it is.
yeah, I think if you could walk over there, they'd have bigger problems than you sending 1,000 invoices.
We love it. We'd have a
Yeah.
great time.
Cool.
So is there more, like I said, is there more supplement questions you have, Price Bob, Ben?
I got nothing, dude. I've exhausted
There's
everything.
lots, but I want to talk about, like, because Morphogen Ben is, you know, a pretty interesting guy too at the same time. So
I gotta be honest. Like, I am very curious about Morphogen and Ben. Like, just the highlight reel of the things that we see on his social media is hilarious. Like, it goes from like the most wholesome content of his kids being adorable to like pictures of him shredded at festivals with his wife. And it's just like, it's wild. It is so cool.
So life is meant to be lived to the fullest. And because everything I do is at 100%, I full ass everything, including every single thing in my entire life. If I'm not going to do it, then I'm not going to fucking do it. But if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And that's pretty much anything that I decide to do. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And for the most part, things have been great. There's certainly been some things that have shaken my life up a little bit, caused some stress. There's certainly been some things that have caused some stress to my family and some friends and, you know, some relationships in that regard. And I just can't not live my life as true as I know to live it for myself. And I literally don't care, and nor can I possibly change any of that because it affects any number of people. That's not my problem. I'm on a path. If their path does not align with my path, then I don't care. I'm not changing my path, period.
right, and we've talked about that aspect, which is pretty amazing. You being married and having that business sort of just creative mindset, that's a tough thing to do. I mean, it can vouch for that. Like, when you have a certain trajectory, to have your wife be on the same page and understand that and support that the entire time is pretty fucking incredible. You know what I mean? There has to be some sort of, because I know, what I'm sort of getting at is you have a lot of fun, like, we're very nerd culture and we talk about Star Wars shit and you have all kinds of like fun stuff you do. So it has to be like,
you just do this room that I'm in right now.
Right. There has to be like
dumb shit in this room.
A little bit of, you know, outside, because it's very intense. You know, we've talked about this endlessly. It's like, man, you could be just up like in a mode for days on end where you're just making formulas and then you have everything has been blamed on COVID this year. Every mistake that every manufacturer makes and every brand, everybody makes, that they blame it on COVID, right? So that's like the built-in excuse of the year. So it's like, you have to have some sort of downtime, you know, where you connect with your wife and you have kids and stuff and you built a house, and it's just like, so what is, you know, Morphogen Ben when he's like, man, I just want to chill out for a little bit? Like, what does he do?
Do I ever actually chill out? I mean, so here's the thing. Even when I'm not doing work stuff, it's very difficult for me to turn my brain off from whatever I'm doing. So if work is not the focus and if it's something else, I'm ultra in. It's very difficult for me to literally just sit down and just watch mindless TV. Even when I'm watching TV, it has to be very engaging, and I'm usually still doing something else. I have a YouTube video playing, I'm checking Instagram messages, or it's kind of, it's constant. It does cause some stress, absolutely. It causes a hell of a lot of stress. I've battled a hell of a lot of like depression, anxiety shit my whole life off and on. And so I have this ultra like 1,000-mile-an-hour brain that is hyper productive and hyper creative and hyper, focused on friendship and love and sex and creativity and all these things. But then when it becomes too much, it becomes too much. And I have like a nervous breakdown. And it's I have one at least once a month for a day or two where I literally just completely shut down, and I can't get out of it until I basically zero out. And then it's like I'm reborn in a sense. It's a very destructive way that it works. I've been off and on medication for that kind of thing my whole life, and I've noticed that when I'm on the medication, like they're designed to mellow you out, but they basically turn me into a zombie. And it's like all the good things, my entire life, all these, everything of who I am is gone, but I'm just not sad. Well, like fuck that. I'd rather be on a fucking roller coaster than just like,
then not there.
Yeah, fuck that. So unwinding is a difficult thing for me. We're big movie people. This whole room is movie props and movie posters and all kinds of shit. We like festivals. We like concerts. We like just having people over. I'm a very extroverted. I recharge with people. I mean, I can literally go to somebody's house and have whether it's a small group of people or a big group of people, and I can stay up for a day or 2 days, and just if I'm engaged in awesome conversation or hilarious jokes or awesome experiences, whatever it is, I just keep going and going and going and going. And so that's kind of where everything goes when I'm not in hyper work mode. It's usually in something like that. In terms of actual relaxation,
let us know if it ever happens.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
One thing that you said, and it was funny because before you came on the podcast tonight, we were all discussing this for some reason these last couple of days. But like what you mentioned, it's kind of like a common theme with certain people. It's like, Jacob mentioned it, I mentioned it. I was like, man, these last couple of days, it's been like hitting a wall. It's like you're just going, and then eventually there's a breaking point. But I feel the same exact way you do. I don't want to blunt that. I don't want to stop that from happening. It's like just hopefully you can mitigate it in some sort of way, but that's what makes you different, and that's what makes you great. So you don't want to stop that from happening. But man, that shit's coming. Like we were literally talking about this tonight before we started the podcast. I was like, man, these last couple of days, it's like I can't even move. You're like walking like fucking like in water because you're just. But then you think about what you just did over the last couple of weeks, and you're like, well, I guess that makes sense.
It's like a trauma response. It's like you legitimately have a day of a trauma response where you not just mentally are just out of it, but physically you feel like you got hit by a fucking truck. Absolutely. And I get it as bad as anybody could get it. And I get it relatively frequently. And that's a side of things that people don't see. I talk about it, but I'm, that never like ends up on social media. I'm not like posting a Instagram video of me, sobbing in the corner or breaking furniture or something stupid, something destructive and stupid, but it happens, So
I think you probably described that better than I could ever put it into words myself, because I feel the same way. I feel like, driving at 100 miles an hour, eventually you're going to crash, but I'd rather do 100 and crash than do 65 for twice as long. I think, at least like in the way that I work, creating content constantly is anxiety inducing. And I always end up probably about once a month, like you're saying, like with a day where I just like shut down. I don't do anything. I take off. I like sleep on the couch, watch some TV, and the next day it's like, well, get back to it. You just got to reset. And it's I would much rather produce the highest quality work that I could for 29 days straight and take a day off than like pull the 5-day work week and put out mediocre shit. And I think that maybe that anxiety, that perfectionism is what drives me to do so.
Because I mean, when you look at any successful figures that have caused any sort of change or, creative artistic outlet, they're these very enigmatic figures that also have this darkness to them. I mean, how many brilliant musicians over, the last several years, the last 50 years have committed suicide. It's like you have everything in life. You've created so much. You've changed the world. You're filthy rich. You have women. You have all these, all this stuff, and you killed yourself. And it's because you have two sides of this sort of coin. And the hope is that you have, you come up heads, 29 times and tails once, and it's not the other way around. That's where the outlet comes. I mean, I've actually talked to some psychiatrists about this sort of thing where, there's people that have that, they have a kind of a faulty dopamine system in their brain where the motivation and the drive that dopamine causes is elevated, and the creativity in this. But when that burns out, nothing stimulates it, and then nothing is good, and then your serotonin gets affected, and then it causes just a complete collapse of everything that makes you want to move forward. And not just within each individual task, where there's a business creative task or whatnot, just life in general. I've always said that if I ever feel like I'm just plateauing, then I feel like the journey is over.
Yeah.
Like there has to be evolution, there has to be growth or change in some capacity. It's like the path has to continue forward or has to keep going up. If the path ever feels like it stops or just kind of levels off, I start to get this like impending sense of dread, like the journey is over. And I'm essentially like running away from that. People are like, you're so motivated and you're so driven and you're so creative and you're so these things. Why are you doing that? I go, because I don't want to kill myself. And so I have to live a great life so that I don't succumb to this, this darkness. So everybody's got that sort of thing in them, and it's definitely more prevalent in hyper creative people. So not to get too dark.
I'm so glad I'm not alone.
Yeah.
No, and I can speak for the content side of things, or even like the entrepreneurship side of things. I like to view it as us having multiple, like, not personalities, but people within us.
Yeah.
You've got the artist, you've got the technician, the entrepreneur, the investor, whatever. And, so a lot of times for me, I would consider myself a content creator as well. And I do experience that creative burnout. And so I just have to identify that, hey, that portion of Jacob is burnt out. Let's step over into the technician. Let's focus on the systems within the business. Let's move forward in that route and let this heal,
Yeah.
So I think it's just a lot of people who are just go in one direction aren't really self-aware with themselves as to what other aspects they could be improving upon. I
like the way you said that, kind of the let this heal while you shift over into some other mode that still requires energy and effort and still is stressful, but it's not in the same ballpark as this thing. Yeah, I like
exactly.
Yeah, there's a dynamic that works there where you realize you're going so hard, and this is one thing that I struggle with, and I know this is like how we sort of can talk about things like this. It's like sometimes you're like, I can't stop because someone else, right? You're always someone else is working while I'm laying on the couch sort of recharging. But what you're realizing about what you have to sort of come to grips with is that stopping and taking a break. And this, I'm saying this so I can hear this right now to myself.
Yeah.
Taking a break is part of your progress, right? Stopping is part of your progress.
You have to recharge. Yeah.
We talk about like the slingshot analogy. Sometimes you sort of take a step back to sort of propel yourself forward. And it's like, that goes against like so many things that we feel like on a day-to-day basis. So it's always nice, even though we're in different parts of the space or you talk to people in different jobs, fundamentally, it still kind of comes back to the same thing that, man, we're not robots. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, even you compare it to training, like getting people to deload is probably the hardest thing in the world.
Right?
But
100%.
you never progress without that. You will drive yourself into the ground, you will tear a bicep off the bone, and you're not progressing at that point. I think like my biggest flaw is like getting very one-dimensional. Like if I only identify as Price Plow Ben, when I burn out as Price Plow Ben, I got nothing else to go to.
Yeah.
I think that's probably not very healthy. But I think like there's a lot of other things out there you can do. Like I was saying with Ben's social media, like there's father Ben, there's family Ben, there's friends Ben, right? There's a lot of other stuff you can switch to doing.
There's a few things in there that aren't on social media, but
as it should be.
Jacob, were you gonna say something?
Sir?
Were you gonna say something, Jacob?
Oh no, I kind of smirked when Ben said something about one dimensional and when you get burnt out, do you identify as yourself or somebody else? And I was like, or you just make rash decisions and buy things that are too expensive or something.
Yeah, that's what I did this weekend.
Yeah, same. So it's all good. I was gonna say that's the therapy right there.
Yeah.
Literally, I mean, we've been living below our means for a number of years. And in the last 6 months, now that it's not that big of a deal, I've definitely developed a little bit of an online shopping problem.
It's a snowball, right?
But the way that I look, and this is a very weird way to look at it, but I effectively make, let's say, it's not exact, let's say I make 10 times what I used to make in my old career years and years ago, right? Sure. If something back then was $10, I could justify $10, right? So if something right now is $100, it's the same. Right? It's the
I
same
get
amount. So it's like, well, yeah, that cost $500, but who cares? And they're like, that's a lot. And I'm like, yeah, but 10 years ago I would have spent 50 on it. So it's the same value to me now.
100%.
That's how I justify it. I'm definitely still getting worse though. So
I don't know. I bought a car this weekend, and like the couple of days after, I'm like, I already spent all that money. What's $100 more? What's what's all this much more? It's like
when you blow your diet and you're like, what's one more cookie? I already fucked it up. I'm gonna eat all the cookies. Yep.
yeah. You might as well enjoy it like while you're fucking it up.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm glad I'm not
I agree.
alone.
No, I totally agree. Yeah.
I was going to say there was one other thing, like sort of going a little bit back to what we were just talking about. You know, you mentioned you're very much like in your own lane, and we talked about how, but you're also a tremendous people person. I would say that was like one thing that I know you and I had become like good friends and things like that through our conversations. And you show a lot of love to a lot of people, and I think that's one thing that I think people appreciate about you. It's one thing I appreciate about you.
But it's to the right people though, and
Exactly.
thankfully there's more of them now than there ever was. But I'm not going to give any energy to the wrong people, like not negative energy. That's still energy. I'm going to give them nothing. But the people that are good, I am literally 100 or nothing with every single thing that I do, everything, to the point that it's overwhelmingly good, but it does cause some of my own detriment at times where I do give too much of myself to an endeavor or a person that, maybe it's premature, maybe they burn me in the long run. It happens, but that's the only way I know how to be. So.
Yeah. And tying back into the mental health, that's just one comment I wanted to make about just one thing I know about you. And one thing I know other people notice about you is, right, we're kind of like the same way. It's like, you find your people. It's hard, man, because you meet so many people these days and you have so many people bombarding you with, and there's a filtering process that you sort of have to go through. But then you find your people and you give yourself sort of to that community of people. But that all ties back into why you've been able to build, or part of why you've been able to sort of build it. And your brand sort of reflects that whole entire process. Like, this is just how I do things. This is how I live my life.
Yeah. The fact that, I always used to say that I would hope that the brand would outgrow me, and be its own thing. I still hope for that. But I had a really pivotal conversation a couple months ago with a very good friend of mine who's very, very, very good at business stuff. And he's like, nobody would fucking care if it wasn't for you. He's like, you are the brand. He's like, you need to be this figure. He's like, look at all the biggest, these companies, look at the, Apple and these things, they have this figure, this person. And it's either this mysterious person that people want to know more of, or it's this charismatic person, or it's this, whatever. He's like, that's what you are, as much as you keep saying that someday it'd be cool to step out of that. He goes, that's just what you are, and you need to embrace it. I'm like, okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say too, on another maybe like not so positive note, we had the last guest we had on a couple weeks ago was kind of talking a little bit of shit about you, Matt Nickerson over, Base 06. I didn't know if you had anything like.
Is that?
I don't know.
I don't know. Is that that's the old guy? Wait, which guy is that?
I can say yes because I think he's a little bit older than I am. So yeah, it's like.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I'm thinking of the same guy.
He makes a Amino 9, or is it?
Wait,
no, it's something else. Something with a letter.
He hums a lot.
Constricted.
He hums a lot. Yeah.
He's always humming. I don't know what's up with that.
Yeah.
He's really. I think he's really big into the spinach nitrates, isn't he? Okay.
This video just got demonetized on YouTube.
I don't know, man. Yeah, that. Never mind.
Allegedly the nitrates. Sorry.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's another one though. It's like he's making an impact because it's the right thing to do, and he's successful for it. But that's not why. I mean, he didn't need to go through the hassle of all that. He could have just gone in a different direction. He could have changed things. He could have pandered to different types of audiences, but he didn't do that. He fucking fought. I mean, there were even times during a number of different, things that were going on that he was going to bat for people that he didn't need to.
Right.
At all. but he just did it because it was the right thing to do. And like that's fucking dope. I mean, no matter what you do in the space, that's irrelevant. That type of person is a good type of person to have in the industry, regardless. So,
Can I ask? So, Matt wants obviously the data says 300 milligrams, but would you ever consider like a Justin dose of Vaso 6 in one of your products, like a 3,600 milligram dose or something?
I would have to test that and make sure that I didn't shit my pants. So
I almost died, and I felt like
that sounds awful.
I've gotten up to 600. I haven't done the 9 yet.
We do have a Vaso 6 commodity coming out, and so if people want to take a bunch of capsules and play with that, then hell yeah. I mean, I'm certainly going to do it. But I mean, I remember when I had a bag of the powder a while back. I mean, I forget what I took. It was probably like 1.5 grams. I had horrific diarrhea. I mean, like horrific.
Yeah.
It may have been a little more than 1.5 grams. It wasn't an exact measurement, but it was definitely too much. It was
I got to around. I think it was probably close to 3, and I was not. It was not a good experience. I was really. My blood pressure was probably like 1/0. I was like, okay, that's what I always laugh about. I was like, we're good. We found the limit, so just back it down.
Yeah, I think the application would be multiple doses in a day. I think that's absolutely where the direction is probably going to go with that. I do see a lot more companies moving into the 600 milligram range. I think that's probably a good idea overall if they can do it. Yeah, I would much rather see somebody take 300 milligrams every 6 hours or something.
Right. Yeah, I think I agree.
Yeah.
Matt sent me a comically large bag of capsules of it. I think on purpose. I think he was like pissed off I'd never tried it, so he sent me like, the pictures of weed that like Snoop Dogg has, like where it's like hilarious, like him like it's a gallon.
Santa Claus.
Yeah, like that's the amount of Vaso 6 I have in my apartment. Like I could never take enough of it. I don't think I'll ever finish it. So I'm just gonna start dosing it 300 every couple hours.
So we have like I know you just bombarded me, and I think Shane over at Stack was talking about this, about your plans, for the rest of the year. You have tons and tons of plans, but what about like what's for sure coming in the near future? Because I know you have the Pico 2 that you just dropped, right? And then I know you have a couple other things that are in the immediate future that maybe are already on production schedule or stuff like that. Is there anything you want to talk about?
Sure. Yep. Vaso 6 commodity, a chaseberry commodity.
A what?
Chaseberry for chicks, PMS support.
Mm-hmm.
Morphobiome is a go.
Oh.
Morphoderm is a go. Those are on the schedule.
Is the derm the collagen?
Nope.
Oh.
The collagen is called collagen. So the funny
Wow.
here's a funny thing. So all the powders are something gen, and all the pills are morpho something. And so even if I didn't want to call the collagen product collagen for the sake of the word collagen, it still fits because it ends in gen. So it's
Wow.
Yeah, there we go. Collagen. Yeah, there we go. Collagen, we're trying to figure out what tub it's going to go into. I should have that ironed out next week and get that ordered pretty quickly. I mean, it's only October 1st tomorrow, so it's like we have 3 more months. So what realistically is coming this year? All of that stuff. I have another Protogen coming, another Vicogen coming. I have 3 more Macrogens coming. I have let me look. I have this all typed out somewhere. Give me 8 seconds.
There's just a note on Ben's phone that's like 700 pages long, and all of the words end in gen or start in morpho.
Well, the other day, it was
Maxogen
like boom, 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 boom. I was like,
will be coming. So Maxogen is almost done. We need to make one more tweak to that, and then that'll be officially on the schedule. The first flavor of Morphobar is officially coming in November, 100%.
We're going to come back to this with that, right? I think that was the plan.
To do what?
we're gonna do another one of these with the bar. We got to talk about that.
Oh, and I
Yeah.
ship everybody bars.
No,
and we get
yeah.
the bars on. Is that what we're
Yeah,
gonna do?
I'm just trying to get on the Justin Hall shipping list for Morphe Drive
Uh,
products.
That's because they only sent us like 3 fucking bars, and I ate 2 of them, and so yeah. We have a new version of Morphobolic that's going to be here pretty soon.
Cool.
And then a fuck ton of other stuff that I'm just kind of waiting on some logistics of stuff. If this stuff could get done on my schedule, we'd be good, but it's not. So,
Right.
but we have 12 weeks. So do I think the rest of this can be done in 12 weeks? I think at least half of the rest of this can be done in 12 weeks.
No.
And the rest of it will be done by February.
It's impressive.
And then I can start to get into the other stuff that has nothing to do with this stuff that is ultra top secret that I've been playing with that I'm super excited about. So
Can't wait.
I'm excited to try the bars, honestly.
dude, the bars are so fucking good. And
Yeah.
it's not me saying that because I want to sell the bars. We're not going to make a ton of money on the bars because we can't buy 100,000 bars to offset the cost.
Are they going to come in? Are they going to be in case quantity on your website, or are they?
They're going to be in box quantity, but they're not going to be in boxes of 12.
Okay.
And they are unbelievably good.
Yeah, they're
I
good.
believe it.
I mean, literally, it's been over a year of R&D and sampling. I mean, over a year at this point.
The macros are really good. They're just I don't eat most protein bars. I don't really like outright bars because like the macros suck. So I think the ones that you do, the ones that you're making are legit. Like those ones.
So so the way that I've described is something like an outright bar serves a purpose in the snack category, but to me, it doesn't fulfill the need of a
for me,
meal,
I just don't
of a
want
travel bar to eat a meal sort of thing, because the macros are off from what I would need.
Yeah, me too.
Then you look into something like a typical bar, like a Quest bar or a One bar, and those fulfill that sort of need. But to me, they are a little too artificial. They're a little, the Quest is a little too dry. The One is a little too soft. The fiber's a little weird for some people. Mainstream wise, I totally get where that's going. And I'm going, what are the best attributes of both of these things? And can it be met somewhere in the middle? And because we're not bothered by margin to an extreme degree, I'm not making a bar shaving off every penny as possible because I plan on selling 1 million bars or 500,000 bars. That's just not my game. So to come up with what we came up with, I think it's gonna get some attention for sure. Yeah.
All right,
I'm literally gonna live off of them because I fucking love bars and I love cookies and candy and all that kind of shit. And these are literally unbelievably good. They're unbelievably good.
And that's which is the flavor coming in November?
First one coming is peanut butter honey.
Peanut butter honey. Yeah, it's good.
I like it.
Nice.
Dude, it is.
Nice.
It is. I don't have any other way to say it. It's unbelievably good.
The texture of them are really good too. I really like
Texture, the flavor, everything is just unbelievably good. The little subtle nuances in the flavor too. It's not just like peanut butter, little dab of honey. It's like the little subtleties, like the richness of each ingredient and the little hint of salt and the little bit of this. Like it really tastes like a whole food bar with like layers of flavor in a normal processed bar sort of container.
You've already sold me on like 20 cases. I'm just going to use an affiliate code and sell them anyway. I don't care.
The first time you sent me one of the sample bars, shit, that was a long time ago. So yeah, it's been
probably like a year ago.
Might have been like a year ago. That's what I was gonna say.
We literally got the first samples of the peanut butter honey one. It was a year ago last week.
Wow.
Crazy. Well,
we did put the project on hold for a while because of the COVID thing. We didn't know if we were going to go out of business or if the world was going to, create zombies. We didn't know what was going to happen. So we put everything on hold for a while, for several months, but we've got that ball rolling again. So
it's awesome.
And the other two flavors, I just don't see us releasing those until early next year. The lead time of those is pretty extensive. The buy-in is pretty high. The return is not excessively high, so it makes more sense for me to channel money into these other things. The first round of every flavor of bar, we essentially lose money, even if we sell it at value, because of all the R&D steps that cost money that you don't get that money back. It's not like money towards the product that you create. You have to spend thousands of dollars in recipe development that you don't get back. So,
yeah,
whatever.
There we go.
Whatever.
November, then, I guess, guys.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see you back then. Thank you so much, Ben. I really appreciate it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, cases for everybody. Fucking make it rain with Morphe bars.
All right. Well, I'm gonna end the stream unless you guys have anything else to add.
Nope. Nope. We're good, man.
That was all I needed
Yeah.
at 2 hours.